led by Boy Scout Troop number 154. Reverend Dixon.
We thank God for this day. It's been a beautiful day. Thank all is here and present. Ask you to bless us tonight as we council meeting continue. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I invite the members of Boy Scout Troop number 154 forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Members of council, you have before you this evening's agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Not moved for approval.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Hutchison, seconded by Councilman Neal to approve tonight's agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously and the agenda is approved. We now have before us the consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine and non-controversial are marked with an asterisk and will be acted upon by a single roll call vote of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of council so requests, in which event the matter shall be removed from the consent agenda and considered a separate item. What is the pleasure of council? Councilman Anderson.
Mr. President, I request removal of item 5B, 5 Bravo.
5B has been pulled from consent by Councilman Anderson. Are there any other requests on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Neal and seconded by Councilman Hare to approve the consent agenda as amended. Madam, is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Sudler?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Hosfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 2 is a presentation on the Mallard Pond Park and Trail Grant from DENREC. I'd invite Mayor Christensen, Mr. Bob Eman of DENREC, and Mrs. Anne Marie Townsend, Director of Planning and Community Development, and Mr. Wayne Voschel, Recreation Center Coordinator, to the podium for the presentation. Mr. Mayor. As Chair of Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilman Sudler, will you join it? Gathered at the podium. Thank you, sir.
Oh, I start? Okay, I didn't know if I was going to introduce you or anything. Okay. My name is Bob Eman. I work for Delaware State Parks, and quite a sobering start to a meeting for me. I was expecting a normal council meeting, but it was interesting in the lighting. I'm the grants coordinator for Delaware State Parks, and I'm happy to present today a check for the Mallard Pond Park project. There are actually 2 projects. One was the trail project, which was approved by the Council on Greenways and Trails, as well as the playground project, which was approved by the Parks and Recreation Council. On behalf of Ray Bivens, the Director of Parks and Recreation, I'm privileged to provide this check in the amount of $81,350 to the City of Dover for the project there that is recently completed. I congratulate the Parks and Rec Department for keeping their parks clean and inviting places for the public to enjoy of all the entire spectrum of social and economic folks and citizens and visitors in Dover. And again, I'll present this check on behalf of Delaware State Parks and the Outdoor Recreation Parks and Trails Program. Who would like to receive it?
Can give it to Councilman Sudler.
There you go.
He's our
Thank you
committee
very
chair.
much.
So,
Thank you.
Mrs. Townsend, would you like to offer anything?
I would just like to, one, thank DENREC for their continued support of the park system. We've received funding for many years from DENREC's grant funding. But I also want to say this is a really exciting project. We had actually started the planning of the playground, and then when we did the pedestrian study for the area around Dover High School and then the city's pedestrian plan, this multi-use path became an important connection, not only recreationally, but it will provide access to the Dover High School from people of the Mallard Pond neighborhood and other areas that otherwise wouldn't have good pedestrian and bicycle access to the school. So I want to thank DENREC for the support, and also we need to thank Senator Bushweller and Representative Lynn because they provided community transportation funds for the trail project. So.
I got one last comment too.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make note that the grant program has been around since 1988, and one of the very first projects we did was help the city purchase Shooty Park, which was called Westover Park at the time. So we've been involved with the city since the very beginning. So it's been a good partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
As Chair of Park and Recs, I want to thank you for your generous gift, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We now have Agenda Item 5A from the October 11th Council Committee of the Whole Legislative Finance and Administration Committee, request of Fordham and Dominion Brewing Company for an amendment to Appendix B zoning Article 3, District Regulations 22, Airport Environs Overlay, subsection 22.4, regarding a temporary use. Councilman Hare, as Chair of Legislative Finance and Administration, would you brief us on this item?
Yes, after the meeting, at the meeting, it was decided to have the mayor and myself meet with the wing commander to discuss any concerns the base might have. And we did do that. We met with them, and Councilman Hosfeld came, and Representative Bennett, and we laid everything out. He was going to meet with his staffs and get back in touch with us. Although I have spoken with him on recent Civic Leaders Tour, he and the mayor are supposed to still be getting together. So I would like to make a motion to table this until our next, or I'd like to
table or defer it?
Defer it until the next meeting, until after the mayor can meet with the wing commander, and then we can go from there.
Second. The motion's been made by Councilman Hare, and second by Councilman Cole to defer the item for future consideration after such time we hear.
Yeah, then in the next meeting.
Any discussion of the item? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now go to item 5B, disposal of excess property, 45 South State Street, the former Dover Public Library. This item was requested to be pulled off the consent agenda by Councilman Anderson. Councilman Hare, would you brief us on this item, or have City Manager Koenig brief us on this item, if you prefer?
I'll defer to City Manager
Mr. Koenig, would you brief us on this item, and then I'll recognize Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Council President Slavin. As a follow-up to a number of discussions over probably more than a year related to the disposition of property at 45 South State Street, the staff had made a recommendation that we declare this property as excess property and seek a market value or listing of the property on the commercial real estate market. We have had several unsolicited offers on the property. Those offers have been discussed at different levels of the organization, administratively, some discussions with council. But in the discussions going back several months ago, it was pointed out that the property has never actually been declared as excess property, and we've never actually listed the property for sale so that we could get a multitude of offers or interest in the property through the commercial real estate market. We have also in recent weeks put out a request for proposals for commercial real estate services. Those services, the recommendation for those services will be forthcoming in the coming meetings for council. And the staff's position really has been that we should declare the property as excess so that it would allow council to list the property and get market bids on the property. If council, after going through that process, does not wish to sell the property or doesn't believe that we've gotten an offer that meets with the context of the property, then there is really no obligation that council actually go through with a sale of the property. So that's where this request stands at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Koenig. Councilman Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Mr. Koenig is doing the right thing by bringing this to council because it is the next logical step. However, we have a question about what is the next logical step for us. I have a concern, and some of those concerns were raised in committee by different council members, including myself, that any such disposal of a major piece of property should, one, be part of a plan, which we do not have. Currently, we do not have not developed a master plan about what we want to do with our property and where we wish to go with it. It is, I think that's an essential aspect that we need to address. I think the second part that we need to address is that we look at all bids, commercial bids and community bids, because we have to look at the total value that is being brought into the city. And I would
Can I
like
just offer a clarification? This is not a property we're putting up for bid. This is a property that will be listed for sale.
Thank you.
I didn't want it to be misleading that there was a bidding process.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the property be listed for sale, that all offers be taken into account regarding what value they would bring to the city and the community, because it may not just be the value of so much that is being purchased, but it may be a value of different partnerships and services that are being brought to and expanded in the city, which would save us taxpayer money and bring more economic development. So we have to look at the entire picture. So so those are the concerns that I would like to get on the record and have be part of the discussion as we move forward. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Councilman Anderson. Councilman Lewis?
I too have concerns, as I indicated at the October 11th committee meeting of the whole, and I cannot support this proposal until I see a master plan with a clear goal of where we're headed. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Koenig that I'd like to reiterate, as I asked at the committee meeting of the whole. What's the probability that the city may need this building or plot of land in the future? There has been talk about building a new city hall. What is the city going to do when it comes time for that?
Councilman Lewis, if you go back to the planning of the new Dover Public Library, part of the financial plan for the new Dover Public Library was to actually sell this piece of property on the market, or actually sell this piece of property. The discussions at the time were, to my knowledge, with the state of Delaware as a potential buyer of the property. But because of budget constraints, that transaction did not happen at that point in time. The discussion about a replacement of City Hall, I think at some point the City Council is going to have to authorize the replacement of City Hall. If you look at the site of both the old Dover Public Library and 5 East Reed Street, the constraint at that property is really parking and the amount of flat space that would be available for a large building and the associated parking with it. So in that area, you would be most likely having to build multi-level parking. which simply drives the cost of the project up significantly. There have been other discussions about whether we have the need to replace City Hall. You are correct, there is not a current master plan. To my knowledge, the last facilities master plan goes back to about 2006, where it anticipated building a new wing on City Hall and then demolishing the west side of this building and building a mirror of that new wing. Part of that plan was disrupted because the new library consumed some of the space that was anticipated for that. There have been discussions about other buildings downtown, other sites downtown, but there is not a master plan or a facilities master plan that goes with that discussion at this point. So if you were to ask me if I think we need this site for a future City Hall, my opinion is that that is not the correct site for a new City Hall to be located at 45 South State Street.
Let me ask you this. If the city's going to sell this old library or plot of land it sits on, wouldn't it be more profitable to sell the land as a whole package to include Whitehall, the carriage house, and the old library? Doesn't common sense kind of tell you that just by selling the old library, you're going to be kind of lowballed by somebody coming in with interest?
The appraisal on the library, if I recall, was about $1.6 million, and the appraisal, I believe, on Wyan Hall is similar, about $1.6 million. So the answer is I don't know, because I don't have a written offer from anybody whether they would be lowballing or not. So until I actually have a written offer that would have been secured through market requests, I couldn't answer your question. The interests that we have had on this property, I don't think any of the numbers that have been thrown out for the combined properties represent $3.2 million right at the moment, or roughly $3.2 million.
Any other questions? Mr. Neal. Excuse me, Councilman Neal.
I think they're two separate issues. The first issue, I think, is what is the value to the taxpayers of this city? We've had suggestions of Wesley, and I think you can't go ahead say anything in terms of what you're going to do until we have some sort of idea of what the value is to recover for on behalf of the taxpayers of the city. I think there is a second issue, and I would agree with both Councilman Anderson and Councilman Lewis in terms of a master plan, and I would direct that towards our planning director in terms of what can be done. We know this is a very central, marvelous location, close to the library, and right now close to City Hall. And I think that to delay at least finding out what the value is does us a disservice, because you have a building that's been sitting there empty for a period of time. I don't think it's habitable for homeless because of the condition of it and what you would have to do. So you just can't just let it sit without saying, okay, what kind of value do we have? What can we get from it? Who's going to do something with it? And if somebody wants to put a liquor store in, maybe I'm not going to be so happy. Maybe Wesley would be the place so that you can develop that and create some income from the fact that you got the school and you've got additional people coming in and all the nice things they talked about at the time. But until we find out what the value is, you can't let the building continue to stay long until the next election cycle and say, okay, what are we going to do with it? We can always do some planning in the meantime, but let's find out what the value of the building actually is.
Thank you. I'm going to offer a comment that when this issue came up previously, we, I think as a body, felt that we needed more information. One piece of that information was the appraisal that we have. I think the second piece of information is what is about to transpire over the next 60 to 90 days. I don't know how long it will take, and that is, what kind of offers will this attract? And we'll begin to see if there's a delta between the appraised amount and what the market is willing to pay for that amount. None of this binds us to anything. This is simply a way of opening the doors and providing that mechanism by which we can accept that information and begin to make our decision about what we eventually want to do with the disposition of this property. Other comments?
I concur, Mr. President, but don't you feel we still need a master plan?
Absolutely, I believe we do, but I don't want to put too much government in the way of getting things done. So I think we can continue with this while we also explain to Mr. Koenig the efficacy of doing that master plan. What's the pleasure of council?
So move on the recommendation to place this in the hands of a realtor to determine the value of the property.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Neal, seconded by Councilman Hare to accept the committee recommendation. Properties known as 45 South State Street be declared excess property. City manager be authorized to solicit offers for the properties using a commercial real estate firm, and that any and all final offers for the properties must be approved by city council as recommended by staff. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
No.
carries. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Anderson?
No.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
No.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Hosfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes, motion carries 7-2. I'll now accept a motion to accept the report from the Legislative Finance and Administration Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Sudler and seconded by Councilman Anderson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. We now go to agenda item number 8, authorization to purchase vehicles for the police department. Mr. Koenig, would you please brief us on this item?
Council President, I would defer to the chief on this request. It's coming
Chief
out of the police
Burnett, would you
department.
please brief us on this item?
Yes, Council President Slavin, thank you. The police department started the process for purchasing the FY17 vehicles in early August this year. IG Burton was the state contract vendor for the police Dodge Chargers at the time, and similar to the previous years, we contacted the fleet. Our fleet manager contacted them to find out if they had any 2016 leftover Chargers. We did that the previous year, and we saved approximately $15,000. There were two available, two black Dodge Chargers that we were looking for, and then an additional 8 were discovered. Unfortunately, there were many questions that occurred during the usual process for...
Chief, can I ask you to speak a little bit more directly into the microphone?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, there were many questions that occurred during the usual process for requesting the new vehicles, so the process took longer, and the approval was not granted until later in September. Unfortunately, the state contract for 2016 vehicles expired on August 31st, 2016, and IG Burton was not awarded the contract. The state contract for 2017 was awarded to Hertrick. We contacted Hertrick and to see if they had any leftover 16s. They did not have any available black 2016 police Dodge Chargers, and also provided discounted pricing below the current contract rates. However, it was still higher than the pricing from IG Burton. Therefore, we're requesting to deviate from the city purchasing policy and to purchase the 10 2016 vehicles that are available from IG Burton and the last 2017 vehicle from Hertrick Fleet. As a result, the total savings will be $29,976.16 in savings. So we're asking council to approve the purchase of these vehicles as requested.
Thank you, Chief. Questions for the Chief? Councilman Lewis.
Chief, are these additional or replacement vehicles?
These are replacement vehicles, and they were already approved through the budget. It was just saving money, that's all.
Okay, so there is a sufficient amount of funding in the budget.
Correct. There'll be a savings of $29,976.16.
Other questions for the Chief? What's the pleasure of council? Councilman Hosfeld?
Recommend we move to accept staff recommendations for the approval and the purchase of the police vehicles.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hosfeld, seconded by Councilman Hare, to approve staff recommendation on the authorization to purchase vehicles for the police department. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just thank you for working hard to save money, Chief.
Thank you.
Other comments? It's a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Hosfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Hare?
Yes.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Next, we have agenda item number 10, a rezoning request for property located on the west side of South Bradford Street and the first reading of proposed ordinance 2016-23. It is recommended for referral to the Planning Commission for a public hearing on November 21st, 2016, and that a public hearing before City Council be set for December 12th, 2016 at 7:30 p.m., at which time the final reading and council action will take place. The ordinance is available at the entrance of the council chambers or on the city's website at www.cityofdover.com under the Government tab, or by contacting the city clerk's office at either 736-7008 or via email at the address of cityclerk@dover.de.us. The first reading of the rezoning ordinance is for introduction and referral of the amendment only and should not be relied upon as approval of the zoning classification. This is for property located on the west side of South Bradford Street, south of Waples Avenue, and to the rear of 911 South Governors Avenue, consisting of 0.32 plus or minus acres owned by Capital Grange Number 18, Inc. The property is currently zoned R8 one-family residence, and the proposed zoning is RG1 general residence. What is the pleasure of council? Is there a motion to refer this as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Hare, seconded by Councilman Anderson. Move this matter as recommended. Is there any
Point of information.
Councilman Neal.
This classification would be for apartments?
No, this is related to the non-conforming use
Okay.
cleanup, so it would allow the parking lot that is there to stay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I will now defer to the city clerk for the introduction of the proposed ordinance in accordance with Section 1-9 of the Dover Code. Madam Clerk.
Proposed ordinance number 2016-23, amending the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city of Dover by changing the zoning designation of property located on the west side of South Bradford Street. This constitutes the first reading. The final reading is scheduled to take place on December 12, 2016.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have agenda item number 11. The first reading is offered on proposed ordinance number 2016-24.
Defer that.
I'm sorry. My apologies. The entirety of agenda item 11 was in anticipation of any potential action on the Fordham Brewery, but because that has been deferred, this item shall also be deferred. Is there a motion to defer this item?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Hare,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Sudler. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the entire item is deferred. We now have item number 12, City Manager's announcements. Mr. Koenig.
Thank you, Council President Slavin. Very briefly, the day and night leaf collection routes are underway. The third week of flushing is currently underway for the water system. Staff has made it to kind of the southwestern side of the city and will be working its way up to the western boundary at Denny's Road for later this week. The third item relates to the gravity sanitary sewer work on North State Street. The message boards have been placed, and that work is about to get underway, so there will be traffic disruptions. I think the notices have been posted in the paper for people to read. We hope to get those projects done quickly so we can get the traffic pattern back to normal. That's all I have.
Any questions for the City Manager? And we move to item number 13, Council Members' Announcements. Councilman Sudler.
Yes, I'm going to announce that a meeting in regards to the White Oak Park, also known as Dover Park, is forthcoming in November in regards to the attitude of the Dover Park, and the title would be Below Zero, Ground Zero. Thank you.
Other council member announcements? Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, Chief, I'd like to defer to the chief for about an event coming up this weekend.
Yes, this Friday, we're having trick-or-treating on the Legislative Mall. There'll be a lot of police cars, a lot of fire department apparatus. Also, there'll be the state police helicopter, as long as the weather's okay. And there'll be a small parade. There'll be plenty of candy given away. So invite all the children to come out and enjoy the trick-or-treating Friday night. I believe it starts at 5:30 and lasts till 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Councilman Anderson. That's good. Any other council member announcements? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
By
moved.
Councilman Sudler, seconded by Councilman Lewis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. We stand adjourned.